Well, first of all, just on those numbers, I think this is not the first time China's had a banking crisis. It had one in '98 and 2000, and about 10% of the assets went bad. So it is about the same amount, the 20 to 25%
So you
of
say
GDP.
China's having a banking crisis now?
No, they had one in '98
Yes.
and in 2000.
Yes.
And the amount of assets that went bad back then was about 10% of the assets.
Yep.
So that equates to about the same amount of the magnitude. But in terms of whether this is going to be a problem imminently, I think you need two things to happen.
Yep.
One is the income to slow so that you can't service the debt, which is happening a bit. But the other one is that you usually need inflation or interest rates to rise up so that you have to pay more for the interest on the debt. And as you saw today, inflation at 2.3% is not alarming right now.
It's not alarming, and as Tony Nash told us a little bit earlier on today, he said that those figures are probably actually lower than the official figures coming out of China. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and then I think if you strip out food, it's 1 point something.
Yeah.
So the inflation pressures are very low right
Okay,
now.
so you're not really concerned about debt. Can we read into that?
So it's a timing issue. So if you think about the 5 to 10 year outlook, the debt is always going to loom over you, and it's going to slow down growth.
Yeah.
Now, whether is it going to cause a hard landing in the next 2 years, you need those inflation numbers to ramp up rapidly.
In order for that to happen.
Yes, exactly. And that doesn't seem like it right now.
Okay, so what is your outlook then when it comes to China in terms of the investment, your investment base case scenario?
Yeah, so actually right now I'm more on the positive side. And it's mostly because I see the construction activity finally starting to pick up. It's been in recession for 2 years. It's a very long time. And now we're seeing the prices come up. And even with those tightening measures that were introduced in March, the April prices are actually still rising. So I think the momentum is pretty strong.
So you would look at then the infrastructure side of the economy in terms of investment opportunities?
I think right now it is still the domestic story, so domestic demand story, whether it's on the consumption side or even on the infrastructure side as well. But I think the manufacturing side is still having a tough time with very little global demand.
How does what's happening with the Federal Reserve at the moment play into that forecast and your expectations for an economy the size of China? Because you're in September camp, right?
Yes, we are, yes. And I think, but the key for the debt and the FOMC is about the pace of the hike. So if the Fed does have to hike much more rapidly, that means China has to pay more interest, and then those debt becomes much more vulnerable. So as long as it is this once a year, twice a year, then China's debt problem, I don't think, comes to surface.